And welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, November 22nd. Third hour Friday can only mean one thing on my show. What just happened as we look back at the insanity of the week. And we got two new people and a returning champion. Very exciting. We have Zoe Levy, an up-and-coming stand-up comic here in New York. I've been in many shows with her. Also, she produces a weekly comedy show in the West Village called Professional Unprofessionals. She's very busy on Instagram. Zoe, good to see you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Dean.
Also, my friend Reem Edan is here, an Iraqi-American comedian, content creator, award-winning writer and actress, alumni of the NBC late night writing program, tours the world. She's been on Laughter After Dark, the stand-up comedy stand-up sketch show, and on other shows on SiriusXM as well. Reem, thanks for making time in between your travels. I know you're on the road constantly, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And my buddy Scott Blakeman is here. He's been on countless national television shows as a comedian, one of the top comics. Today, we co-created a show called Stand Up for Peace, which obviously failed, but we did that years ago. And he co-hosts a podcast. Scott, good to see you.
Great to be here, Dean. Yeah, the name of the podcast is Getting Through This with Tom and Scott, and that's what we all need to do, getting through the events of the last few weeks. And being on your show always lifts me up, and then I sink into a deep depression soon after.
This is like therapy. There's a copay and deductible. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be fine. All right, folks, here we go. Let's start with the first topic of the week. We have a lot to cover. The one I found kind of jarring is because I work in the media, and I'm a comedian and write about the media. And Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski on MSNBC were like the leaders of the resistance. They were telling us Trump was a fascist, even Hitler, using the word, invoking Hitler at times. And Joe Scarborough said, our democracy's on the line with Trump, and if we lose, we can lose our Madisonian democracy. And then, like 2.5 weeks after the election, him and Mika called up Trump and said, can we visit you at Mar-a-Lago? And then they went out to Mar-a-Lago, and then they had snacks together. Maybe they played a round of golf. I don't know. And they said to us, it's time for a new approach. And I'm like, wow, that's no. So Zoe, what's your reaction? I mean, hypocrisy in the media is one thing, but these guys were like the leaders of the resistance for people on the left saying, we're going to fight until 3 weeks later, and then we're not going to fight. We're done.
It's terrifying. It's definitely like a harbinger for things to come. Like they know that they're going to be censored. Like they're self-censoring already. It's very, I don't know. They flew down to kiss the ring. It's not
good. On the big picture of the good, bad spectrum of life, it's a bad one. And self-censorship is one of the most concerning things. Self-censorship is the autocrat or fascist's greatest friend. Because if people just go like, well, I'm not going to write that, I don't want to happen. So, Reem, I mean, look, you have family in the Middle East. There are limits to what you can say about leaders, but it feels like we're slowly getting into that when one of the leaders of the opposition say, okay, we're going to meet with the fascist guy, and now we're going to report, and it's time for a new approach. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I think we should take a step back and remember that everybody needs a vacation. And so them going down to Mar-a-Lago, like prices are high.
So it was just a bed and breakfast. That's what you're saying?
It might have been. I've heard great things about Mar-a-Lago. I've heard he employs a lot of immigrants. But yeah, I mean, it's frightening. I can't quite tell though, because, obviously like on the surface level, it's like, are they going to kiss the ring? Have they just like thrown everything out the window, or are they trying to be a little bit more strategic about this? I think there is something to be said about trying to bridge the divide and maybe even being a little bit strategic about it. There's probably more to this than we're seeing, but it is a little scary, yeah, especially as someone from Iraq who I know I've been there, and it's like you can't really say anything, or back in the day you couldn't say anything about Saddam. You can't really question leaders, even when you go do stand up there or in the Middle East. It's very touch and go about what you can and can't comment on. So it's a little dicey.
Did you do stand up in Iraq, by the way?
No. Although I've somehow become. You have?
No, I've done no, not in Iraq. I produced a comedy festival in Jordan for 3 years in Amman. Because the king, I did a show there. I'll just share this. I did a show there, and King Abdullah was in the front row, and he came up afterwards and said, do you want to produce a festival here like you do in New York? And when the king of a country asks you that, you say yes. So I did that for 3 years. So I did that, and it was from 2008, 9, and 10, right before the Arab Spring. Then the Arab Spring ended the comedy festival because they couldn't justify spending money on comedy when people couldn't eat. I'm like, come on, it's trade-offs, right? I brought Russell Peters there, and Gabriel Iglesias, and all these great comics. We did shows in the Middle East. Scott, so what's your take on Scarborough, Mika and Joe going down to Mar-a-Lago? Was it just a cheap deal, maybe on Expedia, and we're looking into this much more?
Well, first, I've always been baffled by why it's such a popular show. I mean, but you have to remember, Joe Scarborough initially was a Republican congressman, and both he and Mika were big Trump supporters leading up to the 2016 election. And then they made a quick, turn after that. So that, but I would say to look at this, there's nothing wrong with meeting, if you can call them journalists, meeting with sources. I mean, newspaper people do that. Now, the question is, will it be self-censorship? They've said, and they were quoted saying, we're not about to defend and normalize Trump going forward. So if it was just a meeting, which is nothing wrong with that, I mean, you have to meet with world leaders who we disagree with too. The question going forward, will they change their coverage? And I'm very concerned about self-censorship. By the way, self-censorship already goes on at MSNBC by their lack of fair coverage about what's going on in Gaza and Lebanon, except for when you're on Dean or I'm in Moeddin's wonderful coverage. So that's already ongoing. The stories that aren't reported, the movies that aren't released, like no other land that I just saw about what Israel's military is doing in the West Bank, ongoing demolition of villages that can't get a U.S. distributor. So that's already going on with nothing to do with Trump. So
that, by the way, everything you said will be cut out of the show.
Yes, of course. Well, just send me the copy. So
that's just not. What are you kidding me? Want me to get canceled? How dare you, Scott?
Yeah. No, I just would say that again, something I've thought about for a while now. I hope that they continue with the kind of coverage that they're doing, because there's plenty there. But I also hope going forward, and I know we're going to get to this later about celebrities leaving the country and everything, but what they do has never been and is not news. They have occasionally some smart, interesting people, and what MSNBC and CNN, a lot of when you have just a bunch of pundits, and I've been one of them, and I guess I am now. That's entertaining, but that's not news. So I think what we need to do, and this will help us self-care and all that, let's focus on actual news. And I'm not saying this because I'm your old friend, Dean, but you do it on your Substack. You do it when you're on this show and on other shows. You enlighten people. You say, oh, I didn't know that. That's what we need to do. But we don't need a million people like Joe and Mika just hearing their opinions, which I don't think in the end it matters much.
Thank you very much. And Zoe and Reem, I'll come to you to praise me later, just so you know. So
we're kissing your ring, not that
come around to that. And then I love how Joe and Mika were like, we're not going to in any way defend Trump. They're like reading it off a paper like hostages, and we will continue to be honest. But, here's the big thing. We talk about cable news because I write for MSNBC and I go on. But in the real world, the ratings are dying. It's dying. And all people of all different ages, but especially younger people, are not watching it. So, like Zoe, I know you're an informed person. I see the videos you make about things in the comments, but where do you get your news from?
I read the Times, to be honest.
Oh, you do? Wow.
Yeah, I do.
You're old school.
Yeah, like a physical copy of the Times.
Right.
Sometimes the Journal, but just for like the counter view.
Really? So, but what about online? Do you watch cable news at all? Do you go to TikTok? Do you get anything from TikTok?
No, I recently got on TikTok and I just post once a day. I'll just post and then just send it into the ether.
Instagram? Do you get news from Instagram, or is it just entertainment?
I guess, but it's mostly entertainment. It's mostly cat videos they send me.
That's news.
Who sends you the cat videos? Is it Trump?
Instagram.
Little cats,
I'll read The Guardian
Matt
on
Gaetz.
my phone, but
I
young people definitely do get it from TikTok and Instagram.
Sure.
The majority of their news.
But it's true, but not everybody. Obviously, we're not monolithic. So there are different people. You read New York Times, which is interesting for someone who's younger. Like, you wonder how many read the newspaper and all that. I get my news from, there's a raccoon who wears a shirt that sits at a table and they give him grapes. And like, if he could just talk and give me the news, I'd watch him all day, because I can't stop watching baby raccoons. Or if you put a shirt on a raccoon and you give him grapes, I'm watching, like, I'm just there like, look at this, a genius. I want to call neighbors. Look at this guy. This is a genius. So Reem, where do you get your news? And again, being of Arab heritage, we're kind of different in that it's part of our lives. Like, I can't help but say that. And I don't mean other people, it's not, but it really is part of our lives, because we're affected, our family's affected by U.S. foreign policy. So we're obsessed with it.
Yeah. Chloe, Zoe, thank you for calling me young, because I do get all my news on social media. I get it on Instagram. I'm not really a big TikToker, but Instagram, I like follow a bunch of different sites. I follow like Real News, No BS. I try to follow more middle of the ground. I follow one news source that like shows you how biased all of the different headlines are, so you can kind of get a better idea of So I think that one's called Ground News, or So that's where I consume it most. And sometimes I'm not even trying to consume news on there, but a lot of my friends will post political things, and that's kind of how I ingest it. Other than that, though, I don't actively seek out reading articles unless it's like a roundup in my inbox or hearsay for friends. I wait till the Arab community gets upset about something and then I look into it. So I let people put their feelers out for me first, and then I start to dig in.
And it's so hard to get Arabs angry about stuff. So
Yeah.
it probably is a long way.
It's a very delicate situation.
It's everything is every post, and it like I'm not Palestinian enough for the for
Yeah.
people in the community. I'm like I just posted something. What is like? They're like you sellout. I'm like I'm posting an article from the New York Times. Why am I a sellout? What did I do? I mean, like so
Yeah.
Scott, do you get your news from various sources? Is it from old school and new media? Old media, like legacy media, I should say, not old, and new media.
Well, you asked saying that cable news declining. It is kind of a cyclical thing, right leading up to the election, MSC was through the roof, and then it naturally declines. But I haven't, it's an economic thing. A lot of people just don't get cable. I'm too many streaming services, but first of all, I'm very heartened by what Zoe said, because probably ignorant people go, "Oh, you're young, you're big on Instagram, you probably," and it's great because not only getting the New York Times, and by the way, this bothered me a while back when Lawrence O'Donnell, who I respect, he's very smart, MSNBC, criticized the Times for not, handling Trump's possible dementia with the way they approach Biden. And look, I have a lot of issues editorially with the Times, but then all these people going, "I'm canceling, done. I'm canceling, done." And with such a mindset and a hive mentality that's frankly just stupid, because where else you need the New York Times, the Washington Post. I hated what Bezos did, but again, it mattered very little, but it's a good newspaper. And a newspaper, and I like that you get the print. I get it. I would get it every day, but my girlfriend, too much paper, but I do get it on the weekend, and I do. But reading a newspaper in the print edition is totally different, because otherwise, I don't want my news curated for me. I don't want to list what I'm interested in. I want to learn things that I don't know about, because I'm very ignorant about a lot of things. And the best feeling to me, I used to be on Fox a lot as the liberal battling people, and when Obama was president, and I think it's a great feeling when you come back with the facts, because they don't use facts. So I think we need to read newspapers. We don't want to cancel subscription. The Guardian, and along those lines, I watch CNN International on Max. One of the
Wow,
perks of
that's very
having Max
specific, right?
is it's CNN International is a million times better than domestic CNN. It's always been, and thankfully the powers that be haven't. And I watch in the morning. I forgot what it's called, but
Watch
when you
random
see what's
stuff.
going on in the world, in a weird way, it relaxes you, because it's not just Matt Gaetz. It's what's going on in the Middle East. It's all around the world, and it's a world we live in. And so again, I think people need to really read news and to differentiate. Pod Save America. I mean, I'm jealous. I mean, they have 50 million viewers. I have 35, but that's not news either. They're smart people who are having fun giving their opinion. So that's great. That's dessert, but people need to really, really get the facts as they are.
Sure. I'm talking about Zoe Levy, Reem Edan, and Scott Blakeman. So Zoe, there's a point that Scott just said about the idea of being canceled. Like people could love the New York Times for 20 years, and then there's one thing they've done wrong during an election. Like that's it. You're dead. And I've had some of that where people like, "I loved your show and you did this and you're the devil now." I'm like, "Really? I'm the devil? How did I become the devil?" Like I was like their buddy, but now I'm evil and I'm the worst person ever. What about the comedy world? Like you're out there all the time and posting stuff about your comedy clips. Do you have any people who go like, I don't mean like jackasses and like trolls. I mean people who are like sincerely go, that joke really upset me about something. And you have to actually think about it.
Yeah, I released a joke last week on Israel, on my take on Israel.
Oh, I saw that.
Pretty quiet. And I think it's pretty neutral. I think it cuts across. It's just me analogizing it to Staten Island. I'm like, I never want to visit, but it needs to exist. It's where we keep our racists. That's, I stopped myself. I stopped the joke before in person where I'm like, they just got really violent. Ours just got really violent, like Jim Crow era Reconstruction violent. Yeah, and this woman, this like nice Jewish woman was like, "It's very dangerous." And I had to be like, "Look, like I stand by what I say." I don't know. Sometimes people are like they say such mean things. I'm like, unfollow me. Like, why are you following me? I don't know. I personally, though, don't feel like I can get canceled. I think you need to be a name to get canceled. And it's an upward battle, you know.
I
But
don't. People don't get canceled anymore because they're in today's world. You can find enough of an audience. If you
yep.
if you're famous and you see something outrageous, you're going to find enough people to fill an arena or even a comedy club or what, or sell your YouTube things to. Yeah, if you do jokes about the Middle East, you're tend to going to have or respond. And even I literally just yesterday I posted something, and it's always fun when people on your own side are like, they're not attacking, but like, this is wrong. And it's always like brother. It always begins like brother. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I'm
It's
like,
pronounced brother.
brother, what are
There are
you
Brother.
even
doing?
people,
Why are
yeah.
you supporting Netanyahu and his occupation? I'm like, I posted an article in the New York Times. What is wrong with you? Like, how did I? Because Reem knows that. It's always, whenever it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
brother, salam alaikum, brother, like, oh boy, here we go. Perhaps you're not aware of what is going
Yeah.
on with the people. And it's, you can hear the accent, and I'm reading it. I'm like, there's an accent here. I know that. So,
Yeah.
what do you get, Reem? I mean, you post stuff with your dad, which is really funny, and your family. Does
Oh, thanks.
anyone get upset about that stuff?
Yeah, there's always someone. I think that's kind of something I came to terms with a long time ago is no matter what you do, no matter how good you do it, there's always going to be someone who has something to say. In fact, a friend of mine posted recently, she went on some like humanitarian trip to some country in the Middle East. And I was looking at her comments, I was like, that's amazing. And a lot of the comments were about how she went to the wrong country and she's not even from that country. How dare she raise money for another country? And I was like, yeah, no matter what you do, you can't satisfy anybody. So I just take those comments and pretend they're just opinions, and it's just people feeling that satisfaction of feeling heard, and it means nothing to me at this point.
And there are people who just don't understand what comedy is. I'm Jon Stewart, who
Oh,
he took, I don't want to toot my own horn. I can't play a horn. I teach stand-up comedy over the years. John took my class back in the early 1800s, I think it was. But anyway, and I've always loved John. I've worked with him a lot. He's a great guy. And really just the work he's done on The Daily Show and prior to that on his other shows and, on the Middle East, and really probably the most, I look up to with his coverage and really calling out Israel, but doing it in a fair way. And so, but even there, people go, well, you can't even, don't make fun of it. It's not funny, and of course, you need satire, you need comedy to address dark situations, people in those situations. I'm sure there's gallows humor and people facing the worst things in life. That's how you get through. So, and I'm tired too. And going forward, one thing I'm going to do differently is for you, if I can. I mean, the last 4 years, or when Trump was president, even first of all, he's been president like for 8 years, Trump, because he never went away.
He's like the
And
emperor.
I can count so many times where it was a temple, whatever it is. People don't talk about Trump, don't mention that. And sadly, because I need the money, I kind of accede to that and I do other
Sure.
stuff. But I'm really going to do my part to try to go, you know what? Look, just don't tell me what to do. I'm a professional. I know what works in situations, but why can't I? So
Well, it's like if you're hired
again,
to
I'm
do
saying
things.
that now. Let's
When, when
see
I
what
interviewed Jon Stewart for the documentary, The Muslims Are Coming, I
Yeah.
brought up Scott and I said, what do you think of Scott? And he says he's bad for the Jews. That's what he said, something like that. He was joking with me afterwards. So I was talking to my friend Zoe Levy, Reem Edan, and Scott Blakeman. So look, Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth, whatever his name is, the Secretary of Defense nominee, they've gotten a lot of press. But what is the most, their details. But here's the big takeaway. Donald Trump has no problem nominating for key positions like Attorney General and Secretary of Defense. And now Matt Gaetz has dropped out people who are credibly accused of sexual assault of women. And I really feel like we're at a, and there's nothing humorous about this, but it's sadly, it's true. The cultural norm is moving backwards. Whatever advances of Me Too are gone. And we're going back to a time before that again, where some of these young bros who love Trump I fear, think they're going to be able to be as toxic and even more abusive going forward. And that's my big concern. If someone's got 3 nieces and the world that they're going to be out there and women out there that I know. I mean, already in our society, every day, 3 women are killed by their husband or their exes every single day. And we don't talk about it. Like, it's uncomfortable. I can assure you, if you were killing 3 guys a day, we'd be talking about it nonstop. We'd be like, we're on with these women. They better not attack us. We know what they're really about. But when it's the other way, really, it's just like not talked about. And it's kind of remarkable. So, I mean, it's only in the bigger picture here. Are you concerned about the time of Trump, not just politics, but what he's ushering in and potentially emboldening?
Yeah, so I was a senior when Me Too in college when Me Too came out. And what really bothered me, because it was on the tail end of the Black Lives Matter movement,
Yeah.
and that was great because there was an educational push. Like there were all these books written, good white people were like, let's do the work, let's read. I feel like there was no education occurred after Me Too. There was just like men were like, oh my God, like now I could get, like men took it so personally, you know? They were like, I can't hire that woman because she's attractive. I can't invite this woman to a work dinner unless her husband comes. Like it became, I don't really think it ever really moved forward. And I mean, Trump was credibly accused of sexual assault by so many women that, like, it doesn't shock me at all. But thank God Gaetz yesterday revoked his. But I don't know if you guys read that the judge indefinitely postponed the hush money.
The
case.
sentencing today.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That's another example of censorship, self-censorship.
It's unbelievable. And Reem, I mean, what are you're out on the road doing comedy as female comics. There's always issues with male comics because they don't have the best track record. I'm one of the good ones. That's what I think. That's what I like to say.
That's what they all say, Dean.
Exactly. That's what I'm sure Louis C.K. said that too, right in the last moment. So
Louis like, I'm not going to touch.
Right, that's right. So, I mean, Reem, are you more concerned, or is it just, look, maybe I'm naive in thinking that it got better for women out there in the few years after Me Too, and in reality, nothing really changed, just headlines with Harvey Weinstein and people like that. But in reality, things just stayed the same.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I do agree with what we said earlier about it feels like we're backtracking in terms of Me Too. I feel like we went from Me Too to Me One. Like it just seems like no matter what's happening, we're just, taking a step back. I was actually working in the studio system when Me Too came out. So I remember like working in movie studios where all of the male executives were like freaking out. And this was across the board. All the female, assistants and employees were talking about how the air is tense. Everyone was just more afraid of getting in trouble than they were proactive about being better. So, I feel like things have changed in the comedy world. I think like obviously you have like obtuse comments still made, and there is still that very apparent sexism in the industry, but I think people are at least more aware of it. If not, it might be fake, but it just seems like at least there's a little bit of red tape around it all. But yeah, I mean, it's a little trying as a female comic to be, touring alone. You feel like you have to like take extra precautions to make sure there's staff with you when you go to your car. So, it's a little iffy still.
I imagine. And one quick thing, like Zoe touched on, that men got defensive in a weird way. Like men I knew, like I put together some fundraisers for this organization, Breakthrough, that combated violence against women. And it was all male comics. It was called Dudes Against Violence Against Women. They came up with the name, but the concept I came up with. And the name was like, all right, whatever. But then I had men email me going like, why are you accusing me of something? I'm like, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Because I wrote an op-ed about it and stuff like that. And I'm like, why are you so defensive? And I didn't expect that at all. I thought everyone would be universally like, of course, we're against violence against women. But there were some men who took it as an accusation. And I didn't even like trying to shame them. I'm like, what has gone on in your life? It wasn't about that. So there was something deeper going on that I was a wake-up call for me during Me Too as a guy, or as Arabs call it, wanna come in, right?
Wanna come in.
Well, it's Arabic for hashtag wanna come in, which is Arabic for Me Too. So Scott, so where do you come down on this idea of Donald Trump just in a way mainstream normalizing people who should never be normalized? I'm really concerned about the cultural impact that's going to have.
Well, it's incredible because, going back in history, Bill Clinton nominated Zoe Baird for Attorney General, but she was a very, very highly qualified, obviously great choice. You know why she had to withdraw a nomination? Because she paid her housekeeper off the books. And that was, and giving you a little historic perspective, in that day, it wasn't even a debate. Like, okay, she's gone. That's, oh my God, off the books, a housekeeper. And that was it. So, and now you fast forward to now, I guess you can't fast forward anymore, you just, whatever. But where it's even the fact that he lasted as long as he did, Gaetz, in this process, or that he ever stayed in Congress. And first of all, it was just beyond Me Too with him. I mean, he's involved with if these charges are true, sex trafficking, sex with underage women. He resigned.
That is. Yep.
45 minutes after CNN contacted him that they had to support. There was another underage woman. But as you say, Pete Hegseth, who was horrible for a million reasons, was charged and had paid her off, this woman who he allegedly raped at a conference. course, we have to also look at the totality of these people, that it's not like they're model citizens and they also happen to abuse women. There are so many of them. Hope we don't lose sight if there's somebody without a sex charge, that they're also not bad for other reasons. And Hegseth said he thinks the main reason the problem in the military is that it's not woke enough, and he wants to fire any general who supports diversity, equity, and inclusion. Obviously, he's
too
against
woke, right?
transgender people serving the military. He's a white supremacist. He's a Christian nationalist. He was even denied security clearance in 2021 as a member of the National Guard at Biden's inauguration because they thought he was a security threat. So, just to very quickly say, I mean, I think I would agree with Reem. I think that there have been strides, because the workplace now, you can't get away with it in real time the way you could years ago. A lot of these charges go back to 2017. So hopefully we are at a better place where if you do this, you're out. Even Fox, like Bill O'Reilly, he was gone, all these.
Right.
So that's a good sign. But we really have to look at the seriousness. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is director of national intelligence, who is a sympathizer with Russia, Syria, and she, there's no sexual offenses that I know of, but she is perhaps even more dangerous than all that. Someone in national security who is in Putin's pocket, who met with Bashar Assad in Syria in 2017. So I hope I don't think Trump is smart enough to like throw Gaetz out there just to distract people, but we have to be careful to really look at all these people. And then of course, RFK Jr., so there's a lot there, but I am glad, at least with Gaetz, but there is talk that he could actually still serve in Congress in the next session, because he resigned from this set. But then again, they would release the full ethics report. So I think, so again, we should be relieved that he's gone, but his replacement, Pam Bondi, also doesn't have any sexual assault issues, but she's been his personal attorney too. So that raises other questions, but that's why we have to just stay in and fight whatever the reason is.
It's very true. And they are horrific. Like, I've never seen more bad picks in terms of competence. And Pete Hegseth is very anti-Muslim, demonizes about Muslims, just a horrible stuff. But all right, let's take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to shift gears to talk about even more politics we'll talk about a lot of things, but maybe more politics. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more of the show right after this. You guys ready? Come back. Everyone ready? And we come back. And welcome back. Dean Obeidallah Show. It is still Friday, November 22nd. And all the comedians stayed for a change, which is kind of nice. Zoe Levy is here. Reem Edan and Scott Blakeman. So this is kind of interesting. Ellen DeGeneres and her wife, Portia de Rossi, have left the U.S. for good. They're moving to the U.K. to get the hell out of America, according to reporting, because Donald Trump won. And Zoe, if you had another country that you would go to instead of America, like, who would have to be elected president for you to go, like, I've had enough of America and I'm going to this other country? Or is there no other country? Is there enough one? Doesn't matter who got elected. Like, Kid Rock could get elected. You're like, I'm sticking it out. Like, what would it take?
Honestly, if I could, I recently started dating an American guy, a guy from Connecticut who has German citizenship because his family fled Berlin during the Holocaust, and mine fled London, and London does not care. So they're not. Yeah. I would love to marry a Canadian, honestly, for that citizenship. Just go north. It's a little cooler.
So you're looking, are you actively trying to, like, where are you from? They're like, they're not from getting attractive, but you're from New York? No, Canada. Like, that's what I'm looking for. It's funny because in comedy shows now, when I talk to audience members from other countries, I begin asking the questions about their nation. Like, what's your safety net like? Do you have healthcare for all? How long do you have to live there? And they're like, what's going on? It's not even comedy. I'm just trying to gather information about my country. So for yours, Canada, or if things work out with this guy, Germany?
Yeah. Ironically enough, we'd be back to Germany if things get bad enough here.
Wow, that's kind of interesting. What about you, Reem? I don't think Iraq would be. Is there a plan B country that you would think of, honestly?
Oh, I want a vacation in Baghdad. I was thinking Europe, any Schengen or Shenzhen. I don't know how you pronounce it. He can teach me how to pronounce it one day. That's what I was thinking. But by the way, I love that Ellen DeGeneres is blaming this on Trump and not the fact that she was canceled. That's why she's like, you know what I mean? What a PR spin of like, oh, you got your show canceled and I don't know how her stand-up special did, but that's why you're leaving now. Okay, great timing on that press announcement.
So you think it was more like a press just to get press at this point? It was like, I'm like, she
I
talked to her
mean,
publicist, what should we do? Say you're leaving the country. It's a good thing. You get some press and everyone go,
yeah.
oh, don't go. Please tour again.
I used to work in PR. This sounds very PR-y if I've ever seen it. I mean, like, she did lose her fan base or a majority of her fan base in the United States. What a great time.
Oh, Reem is getting blocked because Ellen DeGeneres has the power to block
For
any
sure.
kind of
Just
criticism of
saying.
her. Reem, you froze there. We don't know what happened there. So you worked in the studio system, you worked in
No.
PR. Reem's done a lot of work. She has a
I
lot of
worked in
careers.
PR.
You
Yeah,
worked
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
PR.
I had
Says,
to appease my immigrant parents before I became a stand-up comedian. But yeah, I worked in PR, and I was just saying that, like, I think it's interesting timing that Ellen DeGeneres had her show canceled. And she like lost a lot of her fan base in the United States. So it's like very interesting timing for her to use Trump getting reelected as an excuse to leave the country and start over fresh in London.
Scott, what about you? Is there anyone that would make you like, I'm going to leave the country? And if, even if not, is there a plan B country in your idea? I'm going to say
Uh,
France probably because you go to France a
Well, I
lot
love
now.
Paris and I'd love to
Right.
spend time there, but you know what? I'd be better off probably coming up with some jokes about it. But I really feel that, first of all, this really plays, and I know we're being light about it, but I mean, first of all, Ellen DeGeneres, I think she actually retired and all that, and she's a billionaire and she has
She's a
the
billionaire?
wherewithal. By the way, you can't just move somewhere and stay there forever. I mean, there are immigration laws even for white people, so. I mean, I really think, and again, I'm sound overly earnest here and all that, but now is the time to really be here, literally and figuratively, and to really, I mean, running away doesn't accomplish anything. And first of all, France, I love, but Marine Le Pen might be president in 2 years too. So uh, I just think it doesn't play well too, the Republicans and conservatives, everything. Oh, they're all leaving and all that. And we wouldn't, if they left, we would probably mock them too. So,
No, I would not. I would cheer them.
yeah,
But you're
right.
leaving. I'm so happy.
What I would
Can we
say
put
is,
money together in a fund to have a one-way ticket and a
yeah,
Airbnb for a few days? If we could raise that fund and get MAGA to move to, I'm not sure what
uh,
country. I don't know where they would go. Russia, I
yeah,
guess.
no, that would be a good cause. That's true. And Canada, by the way, here is kind of making it harder to go up there. But
They're going to build a wall. I'm
it's
pretty
a
sure I've
little
heard that.
tip. I mean, if we talk about on my podcast with Tom Saunders, that let's stay here, but we don't have to watch news and cable news 24 hours a day and all that. Keep vigilant, know what's going on, but also just we have control in our life to go see a good play or a movie or opera. I'm not an opera person. Last night, just very quickly, I saw Robert A. Caro, who wrote The Power Broker, 92nd Street Y, an hour of just brilliant guy, a real mensch, interviewed by Stacy Schiff, another biographer. Bryan Cranston did a reading from The Power Broker. It was just an
Wow.
hour and a half of my life, and I was kind of down. And I think we should just seek that, whatever you're interested in. There's a lot of great, cultural, important, intelligent people out there. Yes, there's ignorant people too, but we got to just stay here and make it better. And I really don't think that this is something that we can't overcome 4 years from now or 2 years from now. It's going to be a fight, but we all have our part to play. So I know it's kind of a boring, overly
No, I
earnest.
think, look,
And I'd love
that's
to,
free.
again, I
It's
love
personal.
travel and I want to,
Right.
see the world, but I want to stay here. And I think, I hope most people do.
Zoe, what do you do to recharge? Are there things that you do? Because you read the news, so that means there are times it's going to be painful and heavy and emotionally difficult. Is comedy therapeutic for you on some level, doing stand-up?
Not really, because I do it to influence moral sensibilities, so it's very serious to me, honestly. I hate to admit this, but to relax, I hate to admit this as a white woman, but to relax, I do yoga. So I don't meditate, but I do yoga. I find
There's nothing
that
wrong with that. My
works out
sister
the
teaches
knots.
yoga. She's a psychologist and she
Oh, yeah.
does some yoga for like moms and stuff like that. For everyone, not just moms, but that's her big thing. Yeah, everyone's got their own way to recharge. What about you, Reem? What do you do to recharge? Anything?
Oh, I'm the opposite. I don't do yoga, but I meditate. I did meditate right before the show. I love meditation.
Really?
Um,
Just
yeah.
silence? Just sit there?
Just sit there in silence. Sometimes I have music on, but I feel like it's like the best way to kind of just rid yourself of all the emotional trauma that we're building up from reading the news and what's going on in the world. Clear your mind, be a better person, go back into the world. That's my way of dealing with it.
I've
And stand up too.
stand-up con. I've chosen the more therapeutic thing of it, just internalizing it and keeping it all in until one day I just explode. I think that's really healthy. I'm making my own thing. It's called getting to explosion or something. I'm not really sure what it's going to call, but
This
that's
is
not gonna
why
work.
they call you the devil in your comments.
I'm not the no, not the devil. Like you're a seller. Oh my God. I laugh off I mean, there are people who go like, did you see the comments on Twitter about you? I go, no, I don't. I just post and I leave. I just post and I run away. I don't
Yep.
engage. I don't talk to people there. On Threads and Blue Sky a little bit more. I engage people, but still there are people on Blue Sky that I'm like, look, I want to hear your opinion and stuff, but if you're going to nitpick little things, I'm like, I don't have the time. That's all. I'm a busy guy. That's all. It's not personal. So this was kind of interesting. A cryptocurrency entrepreneur, Justin Sun, spent $6 million. And I heard about this before the auction. The artwork is called The Comedian. It's a banana taped with duct tape to the wall. And for $6 million, you don't even get, there's no painting. You get instructions by the artist, Catalan's Comedian. It's not the banana itself, but the certificate of authenticity that grants you the owner, the permission, the authority to reproduce this banana and duct tape on a wall for $6 million. You could buy a real comedian for $6 million. Why would you? A banana to a wall. You can get a comedian for like 100,000 for much less. You can get your own comedian. Go on eBay here. This is unbelievable to me and is it a sign of the times? Is it the gilded age that we live in now, or the crypto robber barons of the old now? People go Google it. It's not a piece of art. It's literally, they give you instructions like you need them to get a banana. You can buy at Trader Joe's for 17 cents, get duct tape for like 50 cents, put it on the wall, and they paid for the instructions. It's like buying the instructions for making ice cubes. So Zoe, what is going on here? What happened to our society where someone would do this?
Well, on the artist end, this is such a coup, and this is so Italian. Like I used to live in Italy, and this is very where they're like, "You do it, like here." But honest, I'm very close friends with one of the world renowned photorealist painters, Max Ferguson. He's like painted Martin Scorsese at the Plaza, and he actually emailed me the day it happened, saying, "Get me a gun." Like, yeah, because his stuff will go at Sotheby's, and it's between 10,000 and 100,000. That's his, and it takes him 2 to 4 months to painstakingly paint, so just it's appalling, honestly.
What have you got between 10,000 and 100,000 for a joke? Now that would be like I wrote, it took you 2 months to write a really good joke. Would you complain if you got 20,000 for that joke? Of course you'd be happy. But the artist doesn't get, I don't believe the artist gets his money. This was a resale. Someone had bought this from somebody because I was CNN. I was listening in the car, and I try not to watch CNN, but if it's not on the radio because it's on SiriusXM, free plug. SiriusXM is free from now to December 2nd in your car. If you got it, just put it on again. It's playing for free. I'm not kidding. Through December 2nd. So this was a resale. So unless somehow the artist is connected in this and there's a residual built into the original purchase, and I don't know the art world enough to know that, or do I know the sales of produce and duct tape well enough to know where this all comes down? Did your friend ever tell you, Zoe, like if someone gets resold, they're out of the loop, aren't they?
He's out of the loop. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yes.
So the joke is on the artist. Comedian, $6.2 million. Reem, have you ever bought art? Is there any artwork that you've purchased?
Have I ever bought art? Well, I've invested into my stand-up comedy career, so I feel like that somehow counts. No.
Someone's going to flip that for a profit. One day.
Well, maybe me, hopefully, maybe my parents. Honestly, I don't want to sound cynical about this or repeat myself, but PR, because now we're talking about this crypto guy with Trump getting reelected. I know that crypto has been having a heyday. So I'm kind of starting to look beyond this and think like, does he have a coin he's dropping? Is there something he's trying to promote? Because now we're all talking about the audacity of this banana. And so this banana, like it just in the amount of headlines it's generated has already paid for itself. So I don't know.
Damn, hang on one second. Reem, that's an excellent point because crypto, like Bitcoins explode. It's like $100,000 for something my cousin told me about like 15 years ago. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you mine it from where? I'm like, what are you crazy? I'm like, just give me your money and I'll just spend it because like, this is not going anywhere. Now, I don't know if that person, it's like a distant cousin I just saw like at a funeral. So I don't really know the person well, but I thought about that person as this moved up in value. First, it was like 10,000 and 20,000, went way down, 26,000. Now, last I looked, I think yesterday, Bitcoin's like $100,000. So maybe this is just for these young Trump bros to go like, I'm just gonna put all my money into Dogecoin, the stupid Elon Musk coin, and that kind of bullshit. And that crypto is coming into Van Winklevoss idiots from the Mark Zuckerberg movie, the social network. They're real. They gave a ton to Trump. And maybe you're absolutely right. This whole thing is to get people to go like, wow, these crypto guys make so much money. They spent $6 million
Yeah, it's
on duct
fact.
tape and a banana. I got to put my own money in that, which is clear. The music is playing. Zoe, do you have any crypto friends like that are into crypto? Like this guy, or they're like young guys are like, or older people, like I put all my money in crypto.
No, I had an ex who was he lost a lot of money, but he's a trust fund baby, so he can afford to. But he lost $50,000 on crypto, and
Wow.
one of them crashed. I know.
I interviewed a few times. I'm almost friends with Scaramucci, Anthony Scaramucci. We're friendly because I'm half Italian, he's Italian, so we bond and that kind of stuff. We thought, hey, he's like, we talk. I'm more Jersey with them. Like right now, I'm more kind of Arab or white, but with Tony. But Anthony, he like a year or so ago, put a ton into crypto, and then there was a crash. Not now. I don't know if he's out of it, and it was really a painful thing. He wrote about in his book. I interviewed him about his book, and I had him on right before the election. But yeah, this crypto thing is a bubble. We all know it. It's nothing. Like if you buy stock at Disney, well, it has earnings and has assets, and you go like, okay, and it's doing well or not. Crypto, it's betting in a currency, like it's betting in the dollar. Scott, are you into the crypto thing?
Well,
Do you have
first of
anything?
all, I would say
here it
I'm an
comes.
inquisitive person. I like to learn. That's the one area. As soon as you hear crypto, I don't want to know. I don't want to hear of it. I can't figure it out. Even that NFT thing from a while back, the non-fungible token, that's a few years ago. That was even more. It was just a digital file selling for millions. And also, Justin Sun, the guy who bought it last year, was charged by the SEC with fraud and several other securities violations.
Wow.
So I mean, it's such a corrupt field, and he's paying for a lot of this art, with crypto. And my girlfriend's an artist, and I feel the way she does, the way I do when a horrible comedian like the guy at the Trump rally, people like that, they get suck all the air out of the room, they get exposure, and then just decent, hardworking artists, comedians aren't mentioned at all. And this has nothing to do with art. These are just sleazy, corrupt guys who want to make money any way they can. And the artist isn't blameless either, because his point was, oh, I want to satirize the foolishness of the art world, and yet he's benefiting by it too. And I think we'd be better off if he did something that was a little more substantial. And that's people think the art world is all like that. People doing bananas and duct tape, and they're mostly like my girlfriend, like kind of hardworking blue collar people.
She uses cantaloupes, right? She's different. Your girlfriend is very big.
He worked with Gallagher when he was alive.
Pineapples, right? The whole different world out there.
Yeah, but I mean, and I encourage you, the real art world are just hardworking people who don't even make close to that 10,000 and just do beautiful stuff. And this is just a sideshow. And it's, you said, Dean, it's a bubble, and I'm sure it's going to crash eventually.
Oh, yeah.
I love bananas, by the way, but I don't duct tape them. I just eat them and go to Trader Joe's.
All right. We're running, before we run out of time, because I had so many topics, but I do want a big new movie. Two big movies are opening this weekend, Wicked and Gladiator 2. So, and they're expected to do huge. Wicked, by the way, is 3 hours, and it's just the first act of the musical. Like that's longer than the musical. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. Zoe, will you see either of these movies? And what's your prediction? Which will do bigger in the box office?
I haven't seen either. I saw Wicked on Broadway years ago, but I think Gladiator 2 is definitely going to be the bigger box office hit.
Would you see either of these? Like, are these movies that you would go see?
No.
No. How did you go? Are you a movie person?
Dead. I think movies are dead.
I think
I'm more TV show girl, because it's like a relationship versus a one night stand. You get a
interesting.
What
if it's a miniseries, like 3 episodes? What would that fall in between?
Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah.
All right, so that's kind of so. And what about Reem? Where do you come down? Wicked, Gladiator 2, and is there?
This feels like, huh?
Which would you go to? Like, which one do you think is going to do better? And are you going to see either one?
It feels like, okay, so this feels like a Barbenheimer type situation. And I did do a back-to-back Barbie and Oppenheimer and fell asleep. But I will probably
What would you call this though? If you
just
did a Barbenheimer thing, would this be like Wicked-ator or
Wicked-ator?
Like you need to put the words together. Gladded?
Yeah, I love portmanteauing it. Gladded, I think.
The Gladiator and green face, like the witch,
I might.
the Wicked. Right. So so you're going to go see one of them, or no? Do you go to the movie still? She froze. Reem froze.
I think with my parents. I think just because I do. Yeah.
Really?
No.
Interesting.
Oh,
All right,
yeah,
Scott,
I'm going to see Gladiator with my parents just because Gladiator 1 was such a big one.
And Scotty, what about you? Are you going to see? Do you go to movies anymore? Are they dead?
I do
You
go
agree
to
with
I go
Zoe?
to this I go to theaters actually. I think it's really a golden age of documentaries. I mentioned No Other Land about Israel's what the military does in the West Bank. I'm going to see the BB Files. I mean, I saw this gorgeous animated film called Flow, which is playing down at the
Is that
Angelica
also
Theater
about
in New York.
Palestinians and
No, that's
Israel?
about
Okay.
cats and animals and how they work together to survive, and it's beautiful. And when it comes to Wicked, I have to admit I'm one of those people. I get choked up every time I hear "For Good." Since I met you, I'm always like tears. I never
I
saw
don't know the
Wicked,
song. I don't
and
know
I
what you're
think
talking about right
Wicked
now.
Gladiator will. I'm sorry, I revealed that.
I don't know the
Gladiator will
songs.
probably have more people see it, but Wicked will have 90 people see it, but see it 100,000 times each. Because
Wicked's going to do so
Broadway
much better than
musicals,
Gladiator 2.
people
Do you
go
not
like a
know who
million
sees
times.
movies? Young women go to movies. Wicked is going to destroy Gladiator in the box office. That I don't want to say I can guarantee it because I thought Vice President Harris was going to win, but I didn't guarantee that. I can almost guarantee it because Wicked, again, young women go to the theater. That's why we still have movie theaters at this point, to be honest, that it's because younger women go to it. Young men go to some movies. If there's a Fast and the Furious meets the Gladiator, you might see that. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. All right. Before we run out of time, I want to give everyone a chance to promote what they're working on and where people can follow them and find their work. So Zoe, where can people find your work and
So
what do you
I'm
work
really
on?
active on Instagram. You can find me Zoe Levy Comedy, Zoe Levy Comedy. And I produce a weekly show in the West Village. It's called Professional Unprofessionals at the Perry Club. I also produce a monthly show that's called Battle of the Sexes. It's actually this Sunday, the 24th. It's men versus women. They run their sets. It's not a roast. The audience decides. It's a lot of fun.
And what's if people for Instagram, is it just Zoe Levy on Instagram?
Yeah,
Okay.
comedy. Zoe Levy Comedy.
Got it. And Reem, what about you, my friend?
I'm also all about the Instagram, all the social medias at Reem Edan, Reemedan. And just I'm going to have a big tour coming up here in the winter. So keep an eye out for that.
How was touring with Natalie?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, we hit a bunch of cities. It was a lot of fun. We got a taste of the road. Can't get enough. I feel like I'm just a nomad at this point.
Wow, the road was the worst part of comedy. That's why now I do radio.
That's what everyone says. But I
In the
love it.
beginning, it's the coolest thing. You're seeing all these places and all these things. And after a while, like your days are just empty. You're on the road and you're not there with friends. It's the most destructive time. That's when comics get into all sorts of trouble in their lives. That's so it's different. And Scott, though, I used to tour all the time. We did our show at colleges, and it's different when you're touring with a friend. So Scott, where can people find your work and what are you working on?
Well, actually, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I'm in a show called Two Funny Jews with Nothing to Do in Boca and Boynton Beach. So I'm 90 years old right now. And I'm going to be having an early bird dinner both nights. Actually, the show's at 4 and 7. So, which is actually, I like to finish up early now anyway. So, and then my podcast is Getting Through This with Tom and Scott with Tom Saunders. And it's not political at all, but it helps us get through the day with other things.
The older I get, the earlier, like if there was a brunch show, I'm there. Like you're doing a brunch show, I'm like, I'll be at the brunch show. Like, I mean, this is great. You're done by 1. You have the whole day to do things.
Right.
You can watch TV. Well, Zoe, Reem, and Scott, I want to thank all 3 of you for being on. Scott for being on many, many times. And Zoe and Reem, thank you for being on today. I really appreciate it.